evening. Welcome to the Town of Auburn Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, May 27, 2025. Now called to order at 7 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live by Local Access Programs. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight recording tonight's meeting? Being none, please rise and join us in the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, I would like to remind the audience, applicants, town administration, and each of the planning board members to please refrain from asking questions in regards to all matters discussed this evening without first being granted my consent. The first item on the agenda tonight is applicant for Hyperzone LLC requesting a special permit under 3.2.5.4 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for indoor entertainment facility at 385 Southwood Street, Auburn, map 33, parcel 87. Anyone here representing Hyperzone?
Yes.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Have a motion to open the hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Make a second.
I second it.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Aye.
Sean Cummings and I as a vote. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Give us a rundown on what your plan is.
So it's an indoor playground. It's gonna be for kids under 10 years old. It's just like it's gonna be slides and something non-electric. I don't have any arcades or anything like that. And it's just like up to 10 years old. It's like for small children.
What type of thing did you say again?
It's like slides and like tunnels and it's not. I don't even have a trampoline at all. It's just like.
Like a giant-
I have a like a pool.
Like a play gym, right?
Play gym, something like yes.
Kind of like a,
Play gym, and it has,
like an oversized McDonald's recreation place?
you hit it on the nose right there.
Yes.
And you said the target
Up to 10 years
up to
old.
10 years old?
Yeah.
And what are your hours going to be?
He would be in compliance with the mall hours, so it would-
1 hour. Oh yeah.
Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Sundays, 12 to 6.
I do have a message from the building commissioner that you would need to require a new permit. New businesses to change the use from existing mercantile M use to assembly and entertainment. A3 use, this requires a building permit. Renovations will be required to comply with all building and life safety code requirements. This business occupancy is greater than 50 persons. Will require an annual 780 CMR 110 safety certificate. Inspection and must post a max occupancy certificate by the entrance. You aware of all that?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Anyone on the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Will you have video surveillance?
Oh yeah. For like recording. Well, yeah. Gonna have it. It's required by the insurance too.
Okay,
Insurance asked me to provide that too.
okay. I see you have a maximum capacity of 100 people. How will you ensure that you don't go over that amount with only 3 people on staff? That's one of my concerns.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the maximum, how many will be inside the store yet. Like, we have to find out that's maybe when we build the playground. But I think that's 100 will be too much. I think that will be like about 50, like 50, 60 persons.
50 or 60.
Yes. That will be too much for the store. Like, I don't think. It's usually will be close to that number when we have a birthday party. That's only. So we have the birthday party. Like we have the quantity, how many people are coming before. So we prepare ourselves for that.
Thank you.
Markesh, any questions?
Just a simple question, I think is there any additional requirement on the water and sewer side? Is there any facilities that will be required inside with all the kids running around?
So we don't have any water or anything.
There's nothing on.
So there is, he won't be utilizing, say, any water sources of any sort besides the bathroom. So the space itself is outfitted with a single restroom.
Okay.
Mhm.
And depending on how many children are there, how many adults will you have in attendance to oversee them?
So, there should be the adults, the parents should be, or the mother or the dad should be staying with their children.
That's required that they
It's
be with
required, they
their
can't leave them there, so one children should be at least one adult with the children, at least, yeah.
Questions, Jason?
No questions.
On the bathrooms, I'm sure the male, female bathroom, what is the capacity of the bathrooms?
Only one, like one between each bathroom.
No, what's the capacity of each bathroom? Yeah,
It's a single stall.
single stall, that's
Yes.
it?
Yes, so
You
there's
think
two.
that's gonna be enough to handle, you have 60 kids in there?
Well, I don't think we'll, it will be, I
That's
think
a
it'll
Board
be
of
fine.
Health
That's why,
question.
I mean, yeah, that's actually, it's my second location and I have the same, it's the same size on my first one. And I have only also two bathrooms.
And,
Like
and also the gates of the space would also be open at all times while there are folks inside the space, so they would have access to the mall.
yeah,
Where's your other location?
I'm in Dartmouth, Massachusetts.
A long way from home.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anyone from the audience? We have a motion to close the hearing.
Move to close the hearing.
Second?
All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John Regan is a vote. May I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Myself, John is aye, it is a vote. You're all set, gentlemen. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Second up on our agenda tonight is new singular wireless requesting site plan approval under section 9.3.11 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for a wireless telecommunication facility at 174 Leicester Street, map 39, parcel 30. They requested a continuance to our next meeting,
June 24th?
the June 24th meeting. May I have a motion to approve the continuance?
I move to approve the continuance.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Sorry, can I ask a question? Is there a limit to how many continuances?
No.
a hearing can have? No.
No.
Okay.
But do we have to approve them? Yeah, there will be.
Well, that's for discussion outside of it. That's for discussion with the town council.
June 24th?
June 24th. All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Aye. Myself, Jeremy, is an aye, it's a vote. We continue to it, June 24th meeting. Next on the agenda is applicant Arbor Recycling Site Plan Approval under section 9.4.1 of the Auburn zoning bylaw. Warehouse at 4749 Rockland Road, New Auburn, map 17, parcels 177 and 224. This has been continued from our April 22nd meeting. Wait a minute. Good evening, Todd.
Good evening.
Should we make a motion to open the public hearing?
Do you have plans?
No.
We brought a full-size set, and we brought some smaller sets.
Okay. I have an idea, I got a pretty good idea in my head what the
Yeah, I mean,
plans look like, but
I wasn't sure if you'd have them.
that's something I got in my truck now, to be honest with you.
We can share it.
So thanks, Attorney Todd Broder here on behalf of the applicant, and with me is Mike from On-Site Engineering, he's the civil engineer, Michael. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. I do have a little bit of a slide deck for you, but it's not super extensive. So just a little bit of basic project information. The property is both 47 and 49 Rockland Road. It's actually in a Residence A zoning district. It's also in an aquifer and watershed, District 3. It's got town water, town sewer. It has historically been used as a warehouse, variety of different tenants in there over the years. Anything from moving companies, pretzel companies. I mean, there's been a litany of people in there over the course of the years. And this whole project is as a result of a variance issued by the town back in the late 60s for the use, which is obviously in the middle of a residential area. The building's 21,545 square feet. Right now, about 2,000 square feet of its office space and 1,500-ish is, warehouse space and 1,500-ish is office space. It's a little bit over 7 acres with the 2 lots in total. A bit about Arbor Recycling. So they recycle cans and bottles. They do it statewide. Actually, they do it in a number of different states. This is their central location in the state of Massachusetts. So they gather cans and bottles from folks that have redemption centers, grocery stores, and the like. Gather those. They take them to this facility. They crush them. They crush the cans. They smash the bottles. They recycle the glass and the aluminum. All that then gets brought down to a separate facility which further processes those materials. They send trucks out in the morning. They do their pickups. They come back. Then they work with the product internally to sort it and to get it into the various places it needs to go internally at the warehouse so that it goes through the crushing process. Just a little bit of an overview on the site. So it's Rockland Road. Very familiar. It's got the entrance in the gray area that comes out to the street. A little bit of an overhead shot, which I think is pretty helpful to show you the property and where it sits, kind of who it impacts. It's a little grainy, but these are the GIS mappings and things that you get depending upon how much you drill down. It can get a little squirrely, but we thought this was a pretty good depiction of the aerial. Some historical context for you. As I mentioned, back in the 60s, the town issued a use variance to have this be a warehouse facility, an industrial type facility. It was acted upon, built upon, occupied. This client came to me in the spring of 2023 before purchasing the property. Came to me, we talked with Caleb Moody at the time, the building inspector, about what the use was and about what we could use the property for. Because in a pre-purchase scenario, the applicant at the time, didn't need to purchase the property. It was, should we do this? Can we do what we want with this property? Those conversations with Caleb were positive. He suggested that it's been used such as a warehouse, and that the use that we described to him, which is the operation that I just briefly described to you, the Arbor Recycling operation, fit within those categories, that we would not need anything unless we altered the site in a significant fashion or changed the use, which at that time it was indicated we weren't changing the use. So the applicant went forward with the purchased the property, started to make some repairs, things like the roof were not in good condition. The building had not been well maintained, nor had the site. There was a lot of extra vegetation. A lot of that was taken out of there. And the site as you see it today is kind of the result of those cleanups and some of that work that was done. At some point along the way, folks called the town and said, look, there's work being done there. We're not sure if it's supposed to be going on there. It's been nothing, nothing posted, nothing coming before the town planning board or zoning board. And that's when the applicant got a call from Gary, the building department now, after Caleb moved on, suggesting we need to talk about permits, applications, etc. One of the big concerns was sprinkler system. Thought it might be undersized for the building. And after working through that, Gary indicated, look, we think you need to apply for a special permit for the use. We think you need to go to the zoning board. We disagreed, but we agreed to go anyway. Went to the zoning board, went through a process with the zoning board to get the use approved through a special permit process with conditions because there were concerns. Obviously, there's an impact on the neighborhood where the property is located. So the conditions that were discussed with zoning board and with some of the neighborhood folks were to limit the hours of operation for truck traffic in particular. So it's Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's trucks entering and exiting because trucks had been coming in and out of the site sort of earlier and later. was becoming a little bit too impactful. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I think Saturdays it's 9 to or 8 to 1, is that right? So it's 7 to 1 on the Saturday. So we were looking to try to obviously alleviate some of the impact on the neighbors while still maintaining the operation, which we believe was permitted, allowable use at the time. So because we had a special permit issuance, now we're before you on site plan approval because it's a requirement once we get our special permit. The site has gone through peer review through Graves. They've actually finished their review, signed off on the project in terms of what was proposed, what they reviewed. We've also been going through the land disturbance permit, which was, it's a bit more of an extensive review of all of the elements of the site, probably more so than even Graves is looking at these days. We've gone back and forth with them a number of times. Mike's gone back and forth with them, made some tweaks to particularly the driveway area, which we can talk about. But now we feel like we will be going back to them with that. We went back to them with a final plan, just waiting to hear that that is, compliant with what they had requested. And if so, we think we'd be fulfilling the obligations of that land disturbance permit. And then we still have to go back to Conservation Commission to let them know some of these latest updates. We've left that hearing open because there have been comments from with the land disturbance permit process that are impacting what happens within 100 feet of the wetlands. So it's all buffer zone work that's under their jurisdiction. So now that, for instance, now that we're suggesting we pave the driveway area, that's a different element for Conservation Commission. So we'll go back to them, introduce that to them, and work through that process. So if that all makes sense, I can have Michael talk about the site, or we could just answer questions. There's not a lot to the site, so we can talk about how it works, but
Before the board has any questions, or anybody from the audience have any questions or any comments? Does anyone here have any comments or questions for these gentlemen?
Yes.
Please stand up, state your name, your address, please.
John Capuano, 2 Rice Road, Malden, Mass. Abutter. I'm really concerned, seriously concerned, about the driveway and the brook. Because they're parallel to each other and in close proximity. I have a couple of notes, I may read them.
By all means.
So, this is a viable business. I mean, they've been doing well, and now they need a little bit more space. And it's been granted, but it's a business, and it's a manufacturing business. So product comes in on trucks. They work on the product, they complete the product, and they send out their product on trucks. Everything is done by trucks, in and out. Everything by trucks. So all the trucks will probably be 18-wheelers, which are a cab and a trailer that go up and down in that driveway. And that driveway happens to be 500 feet long. You can stand on Rockland Road and you can't see the end of that driveway.
Correct.
So, looking at the maps, and I see you have an up-to-date map here, just the latest map. And I don't know why I didn't get a copy of that, and I've been asking for a copy, and this came in late today, maybe just now.
Todd just brought them in tonight. The lawyer just brought them in tonight. These plans right here, these updated plans.
Yeah,
We just got these 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, so you haven't even had a chance to review them.
No, we've had a chance to review Graves' comments and the DPW department's comments, which addresses everything that's shown on the plans right now.
So 500 feet, that is almost the size of 2 football fields. So if a truck is coming off of Rockland Road, he can't see the end of that driveway. So if there's a truck coming down to go out, you won't know that until they've both traveled 100, 200 feet. And then they're gonna see each other. So what do they do then? Do they pass each other? It's impossible on that road to have two 18-wheelers cross each other on that road. According to the maps that I had, which were the latest as of 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was, some of that road, some of that driveway is 16 feet, 18 feet, maybe 20 feet at the top. Maybe. I really can't tell because I'm using a little caliper to scale the map. The trucks are 8 feet wide, which is 16 feet for 2 trucks, not counting the mirrors. So you have to have a wider road, and that's the real reason why I'm here. Because if the business is expanding, and it's a manufacturing business, it should be treated as such. I mean, you have to have access to manufacturing businesses. When you go around town, you go to the new Commerce Way on Route 20, you see the driveways are wide and spacious, so they can handle 2 trucks in and out everywhere on that property. So, I'm losing my place here. So the driveway is too narrow in a lot of places because some of it's 16 feet wide. So they're gonna have to do something so that we can get in and out traffic crossing each other any time of the day. Now, if you take a state body truck, that's 96 inches wide too. So that's not even a tractor trailer. So if you have one of those coming down and you have a tractor trailer going in, they won't be able to pass each other. So right now, in order for them to pass each other, or to clarify their problem, one of them has to back up. How do they back up? They gotta back up the hill, slight hill, into the parking lot from 200 feet out maybe, or back out onto Rockland Road from 200 feet out. Not a good idea. I'm not saying it hasn't been done, but it's not a good idea. So that's the reason why they have to have 2-way traffic, and for also emergency vehicles. Now, those trucks, the 18-wheelers, those trucks those trucks have a gross vehicle weight of 80,000 pounds. Gross vehicle weight. It doesn't mean they're gonna all weigh that much, but they can weigh that much. And 80,000 pounds with more trucks going up and down those driveways is gonna wreak havoc with the driving. So now they're talking about putting a little bit of asphalt on there. They're talking about 1 inch of asphalt.
I'm aware.
Yep. 80,000 pounds is gonna go right through 1 inch of asphalt. So, and they say that, well, you know, you have gravel there, so the gravel is sufficient to put a layer of asphalt over that. Well, if you go over in that driveway, you'll see some of the trucks that veered off the driveway and have tracks along the side, on both sides. So then that leaves gullies where the water catches, and ice and snow and dirt and debris and everything else catches. But that tells you that when they have a problem passing each other, they're running off the road, and that's the reason why the road should be wider. I suggest the road, the new paved road, should be 22 feet of drivable road width. That means outside of that, you'd have a berm and a berm. And the berms can be 12 inches by 8 inches high. Now, why that size? Because if a driver is going on the berm, he can feel that at 8 inches, and he'll know he's getting off the road.
Talking about a Cape Cod berm.
We're talking about an asphalt berm.
Well, there's like 3 different kinds of asphalt berm. Cape Cod berm is the only one to be that wide and that high.
They what?
Cape Cod berm is the only one that would be that wide and that high.
Okay, well, you
It's a,
can see
it's a
those-
wedge. It's a wedge berm, is what it looks like. Put a regular asphalt berm on either side, they'll hit it with the tires, then it'll be gone.
An example that I'm talking about would be on Connors Road. That's a very good example of the kind of berm I'm talking about.
I don't know what Commerce Way looks like, so.
So that's why I'm referencing it. So what I'm saying is the road has to be wider, it has to have berms, and it has to have capabilities of draining itself out if you have sand and salt on there to clean that off. It could roll down the road, I don't know what you do with that, I'm not an engineer like that, but you gotta have something that's gonna facilitate any snow, any ice, snow, salt that goes on that driveway from Rockland Road. And emergency vehicles, they don't quite weigh 80,000 pounds, but they get up there in weight. And, you know, a fire truck, the ladder truck that you have in the town of Auburn, that grosses out at 67,000 pounds. So if there's a fire up in that building, I would assume they're gonna send up a ladder truck. I'm assuming. But the pumper would go definitely, and that's at 50,000 pounds or a little bit less.
Okay.
So we have to compensate for that on the road. So, as far as the asphalt, the paving of that drive, I suggest I use a dense mixture, which is suitable for parking lots and access roads and highways. It's not just for driveways, it's too much for a driveway at a house. But if you go down to the buildings on Sword Street or the buildings off of Bancroft Street, you'll see the driveways they're putting in there for those buildings, and they're pretty heavy because the 10-wheeler trucks have to stay on those roads on that pavement for a while. I would say 2.5 inches thick.
Not even close. You're not even close.
I'm talking about asphalt.
You're not even close.
Okay. I don't know where you are, but
Way under.
am I,
4 inches, 2.5, and 1.5 inches. 4 inches.
okay, so I was gonna say 2.5 inches with a solid bed
Nope.
of something underneath. Sorry.
Okay.
So, and that is going to affect, that could affect the brook. It could. I'm not saying it's going to. I think any construction along that roadway or driveway can be done without any contamination or any issues with the brook, because there's a little space there, like 30 feet between the two of them. The only issue would be, how do you create that? Do you raise it up above the ground? Which is a possibility, but that creates water dams, and maybe that can be done with drainage. I'm gonna talk to the engineers about that. So I think I've covered all of my points, and I don't, what I don't want to see after this is all said and done, and you guys approve whatever you approve, I don't want to see asphalt pebbles going down and filtering into the brook. That's what I don't want to see, because that brook feeds Blackstone River. And that would be definitely looked at. If there's contamination from asphalt. That's why I say it's gotta be dense, so that it doesn't break apart. And you can't put a layer over a layer, because what happens, like you see on Burnap Street in Auburn, right near the railroad tracks, you see 6 by 8 foot piece of road that came up.
It's because they milled it and paved it, that's why. It's got nothing to do with the original. Asphalt can't go down in one layer 4 inches thick. They don't do it. Unless it's black base from the state highway. It's 2.5 inches of binder, 1.5 inches at top. Goes down in 2 layers.
Well,
Always has, always will.
You can see a 1-inch gap all the way around.
because they milled it.
That would be a miracle.
You've driven Route 12, right, when they had it all milled? Still milled now?
Oh, yeah.
And they pave over it? That's what comes up is when they pave over a mill job. That's when you get the 1 inch that just comes off the top because it isn't tack coated properly.
Oh, yeah, so we're saying the same thing.
No, we're not. You're saying you can't put it down in more than one layer.
Yeah,
Asphalt has to go down in more than one layer. What they do on the highways when they mill them, they mill them down 1.5 inches, put 1.5 inches of top on. If it's not prepped properly, it doesn't stick, and that's when you get the chunks coming up. The water gets underneath it, it freezes it, and it pops. That's what happens.
So I
I'm not
think-
gonna get into the whole engineering thing with you because we don't have time for that.
So I just want to repeat that the brook is very, very important there, and the driveway has to be capable of doing the business that they're going to be doing. And if they get very successful, maybe in 5 years, they're going to be moving somewhere else, maybe, or standing there. But at least the road is already in place for the next tenants to come in. So that's.
Okay, thank you. You wanna address any of
We
it?
can try to address a couple of those things, yeah.
Let these guys address those questions, then I'll have you speak, okay?
Talking about driveway.
Sure, yep. Well, just to back up a step, the original application for this project was with the Conservation Commission, and our goal has always been to minimize the amount of disturbance, minimize the amount of work. We're in the, so everyone knows we're in a floodplain here, we're in the wetland setback area. So the goal of the application and the plans was always to minimize the amount of disturbance. So initially, we proposed no improvements. That kind of evolved over time with regard, when we were going through the review process. We had the stormwater management system, which made sense. And then the last comment that we got, there was some back and forth on, was how are we gonna stabilize the driveway, the existing gravel driveway. So we'd come up with some alternative solutions, ways to essentially collect any debris that would run off from the road. There was significant back and forth with the town engineer on this idea, but ultimately, the town engineer decided that the best way to stabilize the road was to pave it. We're not looking to pave the road in order to provide additional structural capability. This road has been performing for multiple years under truck traffic. We understand that it needs to be repaired. Gravel driveways always require repair. So that was part of the original application, but ultimately it was decided to, in order, the best way to stabilize the road would be to pave it. Once we decided that the road needed to be paved, we now have to add compensatory drainage volume, storage volume. So the latest round of comments that we received, and the only change that's reflected on these plans since they were last submitted to you, is the provision for stabilizing the road by paving it and adding the compensatory drainage storage. It's about 250 linear feet of pipe, which would be in the road. As you know, we don't have a lot of room to work with here. We're trying not to work in the wetlands and do work outside of the roadbed itself. So what we're suggesting is 240 linear feet of 30-inch diameter pipe, which would go in the roadbed in order to provide the compensatory volume to equal the amount of fill that we're adding by paving. So that's why we're putting in a minimal amount of pavement, because we're trying to minimize A, the disturbance, and B, the amount of drainage that we would have to put in order to pave the road. So we acknowledge that 1 inch is not ideal for a truck road. What we're trying to get at is a way to essentially cap the gravel driveway so it remains stable. With regard to the gentleman's other comment, this road has been performing well for a number of years. There's no issues with passing. The road is currently 20 feet wide in most parts. There are a couple of areas where it necks down a little bit. The way that it currently operates, if a truck sees another truck, one might need to stop and pass. It has not been a problem in the past. We don't foresee that will continue to be a problem. Most of the road is passable by 2 trucks, which are about 8.5 feet wide currently. But there are 1 or 2 locations where it does neck down and it may require a stop. But I've never seen, nor to anticipate anybody having to back out of the road. I think that addresses the comment.
Sir, you had a question?
Yeah, I got a couple. Rick Staff, 29 Rockland Road. In deference to Mr. Broda, saying that, well, we did a lot of cleanup on the site. I don't consider an excavator in there ripping out trees, backfilling to make sure the parking lot's big enough for their trailers, putting in this concrete wall, cleanup. I think it's a little more than just cleanup. And that was all done prior to any permits being issued. And secondly, everyone keeps talking about, well, we have to honor the variance from 1969. Well, in the variance from 1969, it says that it's a valid variance unless there is obnoxious or objectionable from the neighborhood. And then it would be done away with.
Is that your only two comments?
Yeah.
I'm not clear on the variance law, but I know once a variance is granted, there is no end. Just happens the way it is in the town bylaws.
Even though it said right in the variance, it's written right in the variance.
I don't know what they're gonna consider objectionable, and I forget the other word you used, obnoxious use.
Obnoxious.
I don't know what the town would consider the definition of being. That's up to the town council, that's not up to the planning board. I mean, that'd be maybe a question for the selectmen or the zoning board, but it's not a, we're just here to approve the site plans, that's all we do. We don't grant land disturbance permits or any of that stuff. It's just that we want to make sure that the site works drainage-wise and they don't infiltrate into the brook. Everything is the way it's supposed to be. That's what we do, drainage, sewer, all that stuff. That's what we look at. As far as variance, if you want to change the variance in town, the bylaw, you have to go to the selectmen, I think. I'm not sure where you would go for that, but that would be a place I would start. I'd ask that, but we don't have the ability, or it's not in our purview to grant a variance for that, that's already been granted, or revoke it. We don't have that ability, unfortunately. I understand where you're coming from. Believe me, I do.
Okay, one more thing.
Sure.
This building was never put on Rockland Road. This building was put on Main Street. It was built off of Main Street, not off of Rockland Road.
So I don't know what the access was back when the building was built. If it was on the Main Street or they decided to go out the other way to Rockland Road. I have no idea. I mean, that's,
Okay,
I think it went out Main.
huh?
I think it went out Main Street.
I think it did too.
Okay.
Whittier's the main. Sorry, I didn't speak.
All right, gentlemen in the back again.
Yeah, I have one more comment on
Sure.
that. Town map, which is map number 17, from downstairs, shows a paper road between Whittier Road, Whitter Road, going to Brook Road, right across the property. On map 17, it shows that. Now, I don't know whatever happened to that paper road, if it's part of a deed or something else,
I don't know.
but it's on the map.
I take it Main Street's right there.
This is,
So you could be right. You could be right. You could have had access to the building from Main Street, coming off of Whittier Road.
This is Whittier right here. And then Main Street's up, I think it hooks up this way.
We need to, can't even see that.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments? Gentleman in the green
Tim Bailey,
shirt.
25 Rockland Road. We've been at this since May of 2024, and we don't seem to get any further along in the process. Okay, from what we have understood as neighbors, it did go out Whittier to Main, and the people on Main Street complained about the truck traffic and all that hoopla that was going on. So the previous owner said, "I'll take care of it." He filled in the access to Whittier, so they couldn't go out that way anymore. And then he made a road onto 49, onto Rockland Road. And that's how Rockland Road became
The access.
history, became the access.
How long ago was that?
From years. But it just, that's just kind of, and then 49, because really the building's on 49.
No,
The building's on 47.
which has no access to
Rockland
Rockland Road.
Road. So he just created it. And in fairness to Todd and his client, we believe that he was just told by the previous client, do whatever you want, no one's gonna complain. And now in the neighborhood, we're having 30 to 40 trucks, up and down.
18
And they're, right, and they're not just all 18 wheelers. They're box trucks from all over the state. So it's not just his 12, 18 wheelers. There's New Bedford and Worcester and Fall River, and so we're just being
Yeah,
innovative
being
with.
a recycling facility, they're gonna take stuff from everywhere, glass and
Right,
metal.
right, we understand that, but I think from the other side of the fence, we're here not to make the road wider, we're here to cut down on the number of trucks. That's kind of our, because it's from 7 in the morning, they start right away, sometimes early. And if I lived at, I get it right, 35, 41, or 43 Rockland Road, they would get the side driveway plus Rockland Road. So they get hit twice. So, and back in 1969 with the variance, no one worked at home. Now they do. So we hear trucks all day, whereas back in the 70s, most people went to work, the trucks probably went up and down and no one noticed. But now we notice. And it's just constant. And the other thing I really just want to say is, yeah, that's the other thing. So if this does go through, I mean, I don't want to speak for myself, but I've tried to talk, and I have successfully talked to the company. And we tried to come up with some solutions. But there's so many trucks, we can't keep, I just don't sit in the front yard with a check mark and say, here's, theirs, and so it's hard to keep track of who is what, when, where, what time are they coming, what time are they leaving. I was explaining to Todd earlier that there are some times when at 2:30 on a Saturday, there's trucks coming in, and it's supposed to be 1 o'clock. And I don't want to be nitpicking about, maybe someone got a flat tire, we try not to do that. Okay, I think, especially these women behind me, I mean, they're in the driveway, and I don't know, as far as expansion, we asked about that, he said there'll be no expansion. So I guess that's a good thing, but just that the trucks are just, and I don't know if you have control over that, or how you approach that. No one prior to this meeting has really listened about the trucks. I mean, they've listened, but we're just, we're the conservation, and I'm not blaming them, but we're in charge of frogs, squirrels, and I can't worry about trucks. And I'm not being sarcastic, but that's what it kind of came down to. Well, we can't talk about trucks. Well, I know, but who do we go to?
I think that would be the DPW, because they would handle the roadways, the entrances.
So who do we call?
Call Joanne, what's her name, Packman?
On
On a
a
Saturday,
Saturday? We need some
if they have
guidance.
hours of operation.
No, I understand, but who are you gonna call on a Saturday, no matter what department it
You
is?
call the police.
You can call the police, I don't know if they're gonna do anything, but I mean, I can't make the DPW director work on Saturday and Sunday if somebody comes in and out. I mean, come on. Let's get
That's not
reasonable
what we're-
here.
That's not what we're asking. We're just, if there are hours of operation, then how do we
And they have to
address,
stick to them.
how do we address the violations? That's
That
our-
would be a question, I think, for the DPW and the selectmen. We don't carry the ability, believe me, I've seen violations after we've given permits. I saw them down here at Reliant Medical Care, can't work after dark. They're out there at 10 o'clock sandblasting the building. You know what the fine is? $250. They gotta keep working.
Straight fine.
Right, of course.
And that's what happened to with the previous tenant. He would come in on Mother's Day,
Oh.
and he would grade the road. And I know the police were called a couple of times prior to these guys. They were called a couple of times, and they said, we can't do anything. But probably 5 years in a row, he hired a bulldozer. They came in on Mother's Day, cleaned it all up, cleaned the site up, and then Monday morning,
Work's not allowed on Sunday in the town. The cops could have shut them down. The cops could have shut them down. There's no work allowed on Auburn on a Sunday without a special permit.
So we have to go to where do we go?
I think you need to go to the selectmen as far as the truck traffic and the DPW as far as truck traffic as well.
I mean, I think in fairness, if I worked at home and had to listen to those all day, I'm already out of my mind, but if I do more out of my mind.
John, we're gonna be able to speak.
Yeah, as soon as I'm done with all the comments there.
All right, thank you for listening.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Hey, the guy in the pinkish shirt.
Al Rafferty, Paul Street. Just to give you a quick history of this project, because I don't know if everyone in the planning board has been paying attention to this.
That's kind of an insult, don't you think?
I don't know if,
I take that as an insult.
I don't know if
I don't
everybody-
appreciate that comment.
I don't know if everyone pays attention to all the board meetings, quite frankly, because, whether you do or not, but just to give you a quick rundown of what's transpired. Yes, this building had a variance, and we were told that we have to allow them in. It's a business operating in a residential area. Because they had a variance, they said there's nothing we can do. However, what we learned was, when the property transfers ownership, the code in the building has to be updated. They have to make upgrades. In addition, the codes in the DEP regulations, the new ones have to be adhered to with the new ownership. Now, when they went up before the zoning board of appeals for this, the first meeting they were turned down. They voted no. They came back a second time and appealed it. This time they said, okay, we're going to approve it, but at least one member said, I'm gonna put some hard regulations in here though, to limit how much traffic is taking place. And she says, I'm concerned about the residents. They came back a third time and said, that's not acceptable either. So they got rid of those operation rules. Now they've come before you, and they also have to go before the Conservation Commission. They're gonna have some real problems with Conservation Commission, okay? Serious issues.
Wrong meeting. I'm not gonna discuss
I
the
understand.
Conservation Commission here. I don't have time for that.
I-
If you've got problems with the design of the site, fine. Building upgrades, go to the building department. We are the planning board. We don't deal with that.
I
I said
understand,
it twice already tonight. I'm not gonna say it again.
I understand. And
Obviously, you don't.
unbeknownst.
First, you start out with an insult, and then you tell me you understand, and you don't.
Well, I do understand, but I'm here to address the board, and I think if you have a problem with what I'm saying, okay, you can let me know, but I think I'm entitled to at least tell you how I feel about what's taking place on this site.
If you have a problem with what's taking place on the site with the Conservation Commission, address the Conservation Commission. If you have a problem with what's going on the site with the building department and the upgrades, go to the building department. Don't come here.
From what we see in the Conservation Commission report, the major land disturbance permit, they have serious issues. And I
That's
understand-
between them and the
and I
Conservation
understand
Commission.
You'll probably approve this despite the fact,
You have no idea what we're gonna approve and
oh,
disapprove.
no, I understand
You're
that.
you assume everything.
I understand
You know
that.
what happens when you assume?
Well, yeah, that's an old cliche.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Now, let me just tell you one other thing about this site. There was a stream, if you look right here, there's a stream that goes along the highway, a brook. There's a second one right here. That was originally filled in
That's got nothing to do
by
with
the
this.
original owner.
That's ancient history. I can't put the stream back.
I understand.
I can't.
But basically, they're surrounded by water. They're surrounded by water, and there has to be some restrictions. You basically, think about what's happening here. You have a business operating in a residential area.
I get it.
Surrounded by water. The neighbors hate it. They're gonna have problems with the Conservation Commission. I'm just letting the board know that there are issues.
We know there are
I want
issues.
to keep that in mind, that's all.
There are issues. We know there are issues. My God. Anyone else in the audience? Ma'am, please.
Jody Balkus, 41 Rockland Road. I first want to attest to everything that Mr. Daly said about traffic, trucks. I work from home. I have that privilege, and I sit in my dining room. It's just tractor trailers up and down in box trucks. And it is a nuisance. And, you know, when they, and like he said, they did deny it the first time, and then they came back and they approved it. But it's not, if you read the variance, I know that's not your department, it does say that the business is supposed to be in harmony with the neighborhood, and tractor trailers up and down all day, adding to what is already a very busy road. It's not good for the neighborhood and not in harmony. But that aside, when they're talking about paving the driveway, so I'm 41 Rockland Road, Ian is 43. When that brook overflows, that water comes across the driveway, fills our backyards, and makes its way across to the dry brook on Brook Road. My concern is, and I'm not sure because I don't know how driveways and what they're gonna do, are they digging down to make the driveway lower? Like is that going to affect how the water flows from that brook? When we've had days of rain and it's coming across, is that gonna filter more into our yards? Or is there something that's gonna be done to sort of vent the water away? I know they're talking about storm drains, so I don't know how that affects.
They're not allowed to put any more water on anybody else's land, no matter what they do. If they do, then they have to correct it. That's, I mean, like, if you regraded your yard, just for example, and more water went into your neighbor's yard, they can come to the town and they can make you change that. You can't do that. Anything else? Any questions from the board? Glenn?
Nothing, sir.
Thank you, John. So, going back to, I think, your comment, if there are spots on the driveway that are less than 20 feet wide, are there remediations to make it up to 20 feet? Because isn't that a requirement by, for emergency vehicles?
They have plans and stuff. I don't know think there was comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We weren't proposing any improvements, modifications to the driveway itself. The only reason why we're proposing to paint it was the stabilization.
I see. Is Adam, that the requirement is for emergency vehicles to have the access for 20 foot, right? Now, if there are areas that do not meet that, what happens then?
They're gonna have to meet the fire requirements.
I see.
I don't believe, Steve comments, I'd have to go back to the files and see if they commented on the initial request for comments.
And then, actually, 3 questions on the truck side. So, today, how many trucks navigate through that driveway? Are they, or in this previous business, are there any how many trucks were going through the driveway? I don't know.
Yeah, I believe the number's somewhere between 30 and 40.
Okay. Is that the same number you expect with this new?
This is, the operation's there, it exists.
Okay.
So the trucks that are in and out should be the trucks that you see in the future.
I see.
The site does serve as the regional center for this group. They have other locations in Connecticut and New York and elsewhere. They do this, in other states. So this is servicing a pretty broad area. I think somebody mentioned, New Bedford and things like that. It's absolutely true. I mean, they go out and they collect these cans and bottles and bring them back to this site.
And then, is there an hours of operation for these trucks?
So as part of the special permit issuance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, we agreed to certain conditions, hours of operation, particularly for the truck traffic. I talked about those before a little bit, but we can revisit. It's 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and I believe 7 to 1 on Saturdays.
Okay.
And is it 8? Sorry, 8 to 1 on Saturday. And the idea is also that there are a number of trucks that come to the site from outside vendors. There are certain facilities in the state that are required to bring their stuff to this location. And those can be done on a more 9 to 5 type of basis, so that we're trying to avoid early morning hours in particular. So those those trucks are those box trucks that I think you're hearing about in a lot of cases. They would be coming to the site on a more scheduled basis between, 9 to 5 type of hours.
No more questions.
Ron?
John, at the board, I think, and my thoughts, that that road minimally would have to be brought up to town standards and approved by an engineering peer that we utilize. Okay, I've been at the site. It looks like most of it's all grindings. It's live. Looks like they did spread and pack up, push out over the bankings to enlarge it. And I now have more of a question when I remember back and others have said that the original entrance might have been through Main Street. I don't know how that plays into it, but if that's what it was, and they just, which happens a lot, and it just slowly became this new road because the people on Main Street didn't like it there, how is that? Does that even throw out the site plan approval? And I would want the whole site to be with oil and water separators and approved like we do all other sites. And the road with drainage, the times I've been there, the water is close to being up over the road, and it wasn't even in this most wet season that we've had. And it lacks everything as far as I'm concerned.
Anything else?
No.
Jason?
No comments right now.
My first comment is the inch blacktop. It's not gonna hold up. That won't last a week. I know it doesn't matter if the gravel's stable or not. It just won't hold up because it pushes. Anytime a truck puts on its brakes, it's gonna push, it's gonna crack, it's gonna break up. The way to do this is do it right, and it's 2.5 inches of binder, 2.5 inches of top or super pave. It's the only way to do this to stabilize the road properly. Now, my concern is going toward the brook. How do you keep the water from running off the road into the brook? Are you gonna put a Cape Cod berm on one side or on both sides? I don't know. And there's still questions from the DPW that haven't been addressed.
We haven't received any comments from DPW that haven't been addressed.
If you have,
I think you might be referring to the latest land disturbance permit comments, which get issued by, I think, the town engineer.
Yes.
Yep.
If that's the case, the only open comment at this point is the stabilization of the road.
But they did,
And we had some back and forth with Mrs. Williams or Williamson, I forget her last name, on the best way to provide for stabilization of the road, or what happens if the road was wear. Like I said before, we came up with the idea of providing some swales along either side, vegetated, some method of collecting. Submitted those to the town. Her response was, she considered the ideas, but decided that paving was what the town wanted to see.
okay, because I'm looking at the major land disturbance permit review right now. You have more than one open comment.
Yep, the last two comments.
No, page 2. B, comment regarding the former topsoil layer was not addressed.
I'm sorry, could you read that again?
Comment, DPW response was the comment regarding the former topsoil layer was not addressed. And then you go to page 3, under number 2, it says, a portion of the site is within the floodplain as indicated on the site plan. However, the limits of zone AE are not accurately depicted, as the ground elevation of the floodplain is between 497 and 499 per FEMA flood maps. Applicant's response, flood zone info per survey. Response, comment not addressed. That's another one that's open. On number 3, page 3, concrete curb is proposed and a detail is provided. Show how the concrete curb ties into the slopes at the edges of the parking area. Applicant response, curb detail provided on plans. Response, comment not addressed. Because you just gave a curb detail on your plans.
Yes, we had a conversation with her, and she acknowledged that those last.
I don't have anything in writing saying.
No,
I agree. I'm just pointing out, we had a conversation with her since that was provided, and she acknowledged that both of those comments were addressed and that she missed them. That's what she said. With regard to the comment about the topsoil, the detail for the stormwater management system had to be modified. So I forgot that that was one change. We indicated that we're going to over excavate in the area of the stormwater detention system to punch through the former topsoil there. So there were.
In what areas?
In the area where the stormwater management system is, so we can get per.
You also had to raise the stormwater management system, the units you put underground, correct?
Yes.
With separation between that and the water
I
level.
think that was a prior comment, but yes, you're correct. We did have to previously, we also previously enlarged the system based upon some comments.
Okay.
But what I was referring to before is the set before you, the change was the paving of the road, but I forgot the comment with regard to the stormwater management system.
And this set, just for the record, was submitted last week as part of stormwater report updates. There's a letter from you, and within those reports is all the details on this.
But I don't have it, that's what I'm telling you, I don't have the stuff. And one of my other questions is all the crushing done inside the building?
Yes.
Okay, so what happens to the liquids that's left in the bottles and cans? I know it's not, it's got to drain somewhere, it's got to go somewhere, where does it go? Because they're never dry when they come in, you guys know that.
Or flow drains that connect to sanitary. I believe that's what I'm not certain.
I don't know. Hadn't heard of that.
That would have to be under the purview of the sewer department, whether that's acceptable.
What was, excuse me, can I hear that comment again?
I believe, I'm not certain, that's why I didn't comment. Oh,
That it goes to the sewer.
I believe, but I'm not.
Into
I
the
was only
floor
speaking to the
drains?
attorney.
Are you sure that the floor
I'm
drains?
not, that's why I'm not.
No, are you
public
sure
comment.
that they go into the sewer?
not.
By just open drain underground or
They're
into
not open
driveway?
drain underground.
He's not sure, so they have to go through the sewer department to make sure the discharge,
Is going where it's
well,
supposed
when it
to,
goes to the treatment plant,
treatment plant.
it meets the treatment plant requirements.
Do you have a sewer connection in the road there?
There's a sewer connection from the existing building. Yes.
Which way does that go out to Main Street or out to Rockland Road?
The sewer runs from west to east.
It's all good here.
So it goes out to Rockland Road.
I think it goes, we found a sewer manhole here, so I believe it goes out this way. There was a sewer manhole located near Whittier, and then another one located in the parking lot, and then a third one located in the southeast corner of the parking lot. So I don't know where it goes beyond that. There's a positive system, and I believe it runs from west to east.
So you don't know truly whether it goes into Rockland Road or
I do
Main
not,
Street?
I do not know that.
That'd be something we need to know. In the sewer department.
But there is a sewer main in front of the building that we're connected to. I don't know where it goes.
And any repairs done? I mean, to the crushing, I know the crushing machines are gonna take grease, oil, all that stuff. How is that maintained? What happens to the guy over greases it lands on the floor? Is that going to floor drain into the sewer? Or if there's oil reservoirs on this equipment, somebody overfills it, that oil goes on the floor, where does that go?
We did prepare a stormwater management report, which requires spill cleanup, obviously, but there was nothing beyond that.
So that's cleanup of the parking lot, not inside the building, it's stormwater management.
Correct.
Correct, so it's got nothing to do with the building.
I think customarily that sewer drains, drains within the building only go into the stormwater because they're supposed to be clean and you're not supposed to be depositing any effluents or anything that's out of line. The other stuff has to go directly into the sewer.
Well, in a condition like this, the sewer line should go through an oil water separator because there is lubricants in the building, equipment is supposed to be done. So that's another thing they have to go through to the sewer department with and the Board of Health to make sure that that's in compliance. The road is not gonna get approved at 1 inch, I'm gonna tell you that right now. It can't.
It's like I said, I think we need to have it up to town or DOT standards,
Well, 2.5 and 1.5 inches is town
minimum.
minimum. And as far as truck traffic, is there any way we can, I know your area is limited in there on the north side toward Kettle Brook, but on the south side of that roadway, Is there any way to put in, I know there's woods there, but I'm sure they're deciduous, and in the middle of winter, you're gonna see the trucks going up and down the road. Can we plant a row of arborvitae so they grow and it blocks the view from everybody, and it also kills the noise? It's not that expensive. It'd be a good neighbor.
I'm not sure I understand where you're talking about.
On the south side of the road, that driveway that goes all the way out. I'm not sure where the property line is there.
The side towards the houses on
Yeah,
Rockland.
right, side toward the houses, which is the southeast side. According to the north arrow. Plant arborvitae's all the way along there. Of course, you gotta leave them short of the road, so you gotta have sight line both sides, which you have to trim. Right now, I saw that in Graves' report. And we have not received any comments from the fire department, correct?
I'll have to go back and look. It's been a
So
while.
until I see comments from the fire department on whether or not, emergency equipment getting in and out of there safely, I know they won't have to worry about passing vehicles, they'd be one way in, one way out. But if the road next down to 16 feet and they're gonna go off the road to get by each other, pretty much admitted that. Is there any way to make that part of the road 20 feet too, or 22 feet so the vehicles can get by each other?
We can do anything you'd like. What we were trying to do is minimize the impact to the wetlands. So if you tell us to pave it, if you want more drainage installed,
I don't know how much room you have property-wise on the
yes, there's
southeast
plenty of
side.
property.
On the southeast side toward the homes, you have plenty of
There's
property?
plenty of property. We can widen the road however you'd like it widened.
I don't know why, well then I don't know why it couldn't be a 24-foot road paved. That would be a discussion with the DPW as well, not just here.
Right, again, and then what you're getting into, and what we were trying to avoid is, okay, now we're gonna be excavating and we're gonna be constructing in the wetlands, and what's gonna happen because we're impacting the wetlands and all the other things that get into
Well,
constructing within the floodplain. So
on the
I
south,
understand the concern, I'm just trying to tell you why we didn't initially propose that, because we're trying to minimize disturbances. It's trying to strike a balance with regard to the impact.
I understand, I get it. But I don't know where the wetlands is, I see I'm reading the plan right,
It's on the north side of
woods.
the drive.
Yeah, the wetlands is on Kettlebrook side,
Yeah.
Correct.
right? I'm talking about the southeast side toward the houses.
Yeah, the wetlands are flagged. I'll refer you to the stormwater management plan. Actually, it's a little cleaner on sheet one, actually. The site plan itself, you can see the limits of the wetlands, the triangles.
It's all
Show-
on the north side of the drive.
Yeah, so we're not in the wetlands, we're in the floodplain, we're not in the wetlands, but we are within the buffer areas.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. Is it possible to put in a traffic light system so that if one car or one vehicle is moving in one direction, the light goes on to tell the vehicle on the other end to wait? I mean, is that?
Yes,
something
that's definitely possible, and it's
But-
probably a less impactful solution, but yeah.
Like when they're crossing a bridge and they're
Yes.
repairing it.
One-way bridge,
What
green
now?
light, red light, green light, red light, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Absolutely.
It would be better than putting a lot more pavement down and widening it, disturbing more land
Yeah.
area.
I agree.
From our perspective, and I think from impact on residents is getting closer to the homes rather than, the light system might actually be a great solution. Thanks for the comment.
I just wanted to ask of the neighbors, do you see many situations with the trailers, those big 40-footers, 53-footers, pulling out onto Rockland Road? Can they pull out and take a nice,
Side of the street.
Can I just say something? My
Please
name's
stand.
Ann Powers.
You gotta stand up so we can hear you,
I
please.
live at 43. I am right next to the dirt road and the business. So my house faces Rockland Road. I get all the trucks come down who get their brakes on and they're and loud. Many of them come kind of flying right into the dirt road. I get all the trucks coming and going in front of my house, both ways, dirt road and then Rockland Road. Often they are backing out in front of my house when there is somebody coming down and somebody's coming in, because these are new drivers, they don't know what's happening down that dirt road. So they're backing back out onto Rockland Road, sometimes they're in front of my house, sometimes they're across my neighbors across the way.
That's why the red light, green light thing at the end of the road would be great.
I don't want to see that in my yard though, truly, if I'm being honest, I don't want that added in there.
It's not gonna be like a stand, it's not gonna be like a stanchion you see at the corner of Drury
I know, but I
Square.
just hope you keep track of the 4 houses that abut the dirt road, for the flooding, for if you're paving, what happens when it floods, what is it taking from the paving to our yard? There's 4 houses right next to that dirt road that I just hope you keep track of those.
So when it floods now, what do you get?
Well, they've changed them.
They're not responsible for the control of the flood of Kettle Brook. Let's make that perfectly clear here. So
Well, they're-
I'll tell you right
they're
now,
responsible for what they do
before
to
that
the
road was ever built, that area flooded by Kettle Brook.
Of course.
They have not added to that problem.
No. So
Okay.
it comes straight across our backyard, to my
Yep.
neighbor's backyard, to Brook Road. So if that road goes down lower, there's more possibility of the water coming from Kettle Brook over to our yard.
So-
They're not excavating, they're going over the top. They're not excavating anything out.
They've already been in there, I don't want it, but they've already been in there rolling with the heavy rollers and getting the road down lower and.
Oh, they're just compacting what's there. I don't think they're lowering the road. Because in order to lower that road, you see an excavator or bulldozer in there, push material out of the way, and load it in a dump truck, and either moving it down in the parking lot or somewhere off-site. It's the only way you're gonna lower a road. You're not gonna lower a road by grading it and compacting it. It just doesn't happen. The dirt's gotta go somewhere. It's gonna stay where it is. That's all they're doing is smoothing the road to get rid of the potholes. That's what they're doing when they're grading the gravel, basically. Is it gonna be, will it get out a half inch or up a half inch? Yeah, maybe, I don't know, it depends on the grade. But the flooding has always been there,
Oh, no, I'm saying that.
so
Of course it is.
if they pave the road, they have to account for any rainstorm, where the water goes from that pavement. If they put a berm on both sides of the road, which the Conservation Commission may require, or the DPW may require, they're talking about is a Cape Cod berm. It's like a wedge off the road. They have them in a lot of the malls and stuff, so when the guys plow, they feel the edge instead of ripping out the regular profile berm that you see on most roads in Auburn. And if a plow hits it, it just peels up. This doesn't do that. The plow rides up over it, the tires ride up over it. It's a wedge off the side, both sides of the road. It's about a foot wide on either side of the road. So that would help contain the water. It's not going to handle all the flood water. But anytime they create more impermeable surface, they're required to handle the 25-year, 50-year, 100-year storms in their drainage system, which according to the grades, they pretty much have right now. But and if they pave the road, whether it's 1 inch or 4 inches, it's still gonna, they've accounted for that drainage with their drainage system according to our peer review Graves Engineering.
Jim Baucus, 41 Rock Road. I just wanted to answer that gentleman's last question about when the trucks pull out. They yes, the tractor trailers, when they pull out, do have to make that wide turn. They do halt traffic, cars will slow down to have them, because they do make that wide. They do go in across the line, when they come.
They do on every road in Auburn. That's nothing new. I
And
mean,
they, and out in the, and out beyond, they come down the hill for a tractor trailer, they come down with it fast. I mean, Rockland Road, people think it's the Daytona 500, let me tell you, they fly on that road, it's ridiculous, but these tractor trailers come down pretty
They're going
fast.
downhill.
have you called the police on them for that? Have you asked the police to put a radar trap out there? That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, well,
And I mean, I don't have the purview to do that. That's for the town police to take care of. They have the same problem. They live off Otis Street. They fly over the hill, they catch air.
yeah,
Um,
sounds like they're airborne sometimes, so.
as far as traffic in and out, speed limit, that should be 10 or 15 miles an hour. That's easy to do. You put up a speed limit sign, both directions.
Yeah, 2 comments with regard to what was just stated. It's my understanding, I realize that there's always times where the 2 trucks would be coming back and forth, but it's my understanding that in the mornings, the trucks are pretty much predominantly leaving, and evening, they're predominantly returning. So there's not a lot of back and forth that you may think. That's my understanding of the truck traffic. And then a gravel road, a paved road is going to promote higher speeds than a gravel road. So if speed is the concern, then you might want to still consider the gravel, but.
Well, you can put a
You can put, it is one
put a speed
long
limit sign on it,
500,
10 or
you put a
15.
speed limit sign, you can put speed bumps on it.
Yep.
I'm just, in general,
Right.
a gravel road is going to promote slower speeds.
Sarah in the back again.
One more thing, I haven't heard at all, different topic. Is that warehouse up there, is that gonna store finished products before they get shipped out?
There's no finished product. They crush glass in cans.
Yes, I mean, but that's finished product that they ship out again.
Correct.
Yes, but, so once it's finished, they're gonna put it in bags or gaylords or something and put it onto a truck.
It probably goes into like a roll-off, or probably got a conveyor that puts it into a tractor trailer.
They Well, they may.
Or bales.
Yeah,
And they put it in the 18 wheels and take it out.
So my question is there storage, is there warehouse space in that building that they're using as warehouse? Or is everything going to be in trucks standing there like Spags used to use for storing product?
You know why you did that, don't you?
Yes, I do. But,
Taxes.
so my point is.
So is all the
where are they
crushed
gonna
cans-
store the finished products before they.
Let me ask the gentleman a question. Are all the cans that are crushed and all the bottles that are smashed and they're put into bales, any of those ever left outside? Or are they all inside before they're loaded?
All the storage would be temporary. It's my understanding it's, they crush it that day and they go out the next morning or that evening. So there's minimal day storage and nothing is stored outside.
Nothing is stored outside, okay. Sir?
Because we did have, Tim Daly, sorry, we did have one of the neighbors, they said that the crushing of the glass into the tin was loud and noisy, and they did move that device inside the building. So there should be nothing outside.
That's good. That's good. Any other questions from the audience?
Thank you.
Any other questions from the planning board? I'd like a motion to continue this to our next hearing, so I can hear back from everybody in town.
I'll make that motion.
We have a
Second.
All those in favor, Glenn? Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Jason? Myself, John's aye. You just continue to the next meeting. We're not voting on it tonight.
No, I know, I guess I would ask you consideration of moving to the meeting after that, so
That's fine.
4 weeks from now,
That's
whatever
fine.
it is.
Absolutely.
Because we do want to circle back with land disturbance, DPW, talk about what you talked about.
That's fine.
There's a tight timeline in 2 weeks, because then we gotta get the plans in the third.
No, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think anybody else is here. Did anybody? Okay.
That's good.
So continue, we have a motion to continue to our
Whatever the next.
4-week meeting.
I'll make that motion.
The end of June, I think.
Second.
All in favor?
Do you have the date, Adam? Maybe 24th? That's 2 weeks. 4th of June? Yeah.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Josh, aye? All right, so Gary and I, well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Other business, I have no discussion, no modifications, no decisions. May I have a,
Move to approve the minutes from the 4/8 and the 4/22 planning board meeting
as amended?
as amended.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Glenn? Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Aye.
Myself, John's aye. It is a vote. Now, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Glenn?
Aye.
Rakesh?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Myself, Jigger, aye. It's an aye, it's a vote.